Greetings, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, we're going to be talking about to disclose or not to disclose, helping students with disabilities in their job search process. And this presentation is presented to you by BGSU's Career Center. Our contact information by phone is 419-372-2356. Once again, it's 419-372-2356 if you have some questions and would like them to be addressed later. So the first topic we're going to be discussing today is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And this act is to protect your civil rights. It's really important that you know some of these rights underneath here. So it's illegal to ask if you have a disability. So if an employer is asking you questions like this, they're not allowed to do that. Therefore, it's completely okay with saying, "Thank you, but I will not be addressing that question at this time." It is legal to ask if you can perform all the job functions. If an employer requests information about applicants' disabilities, you do not have to answer that. Medical exams may be required after the job is offered if there is a reason given. Therefore, they may require you that for all their applicants to be given a certain test and only if it measures the job function. So being aware of that is really helpful. This act also helps you as an individual with disabilities. And examples of reasonable accommodations that are underneath this act is adaptive equipment, flexible job schedules or readers or interpreters, and restructuring the job responsibilities based on timing. So restructuring means some of the tasks that are difficult for you to perform may be given to a coworker to handle. In this case, it is advised to take some of the coworkers' tasks so it's kind of comfortable for everyone to handle. So that's kind of what the restructuring responsibilities kind of mean with the accommodations. Also, it only protects you if you can do the essential functions of the job with reasonable accommodations. The goal is to level the playing field, everyone. So making sure that you have options is key. And just making sure that you can be successful, but it's not always guaranteed because that comes with you. You have to be motivated to take a stand and make sure you know if you want to disclose or not to disclose. So the three things that you need to kind of be aware of is the types of disability. Also, 2, accommodations needed, and 3, need to disclose. So sometimes with certain jobs you may not need to disclose, and we're going to go into depth more with that. Types of disability. There's 2 types we're addressing today, visible or hidden. Visible disabilities are mobile impairments, hearing impairments, sensory impairments, etc. And if you aren't sure about some of these impairments, feel free to Google them or contact us at the Career Center or the Disability Services at BGSU to kind of go in more in depth if you're curious. Hidden disabilities would be like learning disabilities, which is like dysarthria, dyslexia, also ADHD, mental health disorders, so bipolar disorder, chronic health disorders, autism spectrum, which is an array. So being aware of the hidden disabilities is also important as well. Accommodations. So these are helpful websites for you to kind of look at afterwards because it's kind of hard to go through all the accommodations that might be available for individuals because we're all individually unique. So during interviewing, protections during the job interview. It is not appropriate for an employer to ask you if you have a disability. So being aware of that is important. So during the job interview, if say you have a mobile impairment, if you need access to the office and there's not a way for you to get there, it's important to ask them to make sure they make the appropriate accommodations for you. In a workplace, some of the on-the-job accommodations that might be there are assistive technology for reading deficiencies. So like audio tapes, tape recorders, messages, and instructions, reading machines, my favorite, screen reading computer software, color coding materials and files and maps, or scanners of entering printing material into a computer. There's also assistance with technology of writing deficiencies, so if you need your personal computer there, word processing software, all the way to if you have dysarthria, so difficulty with math, technologies for math deficiencies, so fractional statistical calculators, talking calculators. There's an array of accommodations within the workplace, but to be able to get these accommodations, you have to disclose. So need to disclose. Great segue, I must say. What are you looking to accomplish? So this is that reflective piece that as an individual with a disability, you need to think about. What am I looking to accomplish with this job? Unless you feel very strongly, only disclose if you know there is a benefit to disclosing. Disclosure is a very personal decision and is ultimately the student's decision, your decision. So making sure that if you want to take that on, you can, and know that there are supports in place to help you do that. The National Center for Learning Disabilities is a great website, which we kind of just discussed earlier. Once you know the type of disability and the accommodations needed, you can advise a student or you can advise yourself if and when and how to disclose. The reason why this presentation is with students because as a student with disability, if you're watching this applies to you. But as a professional, if you need to support a student, this will also help you. So you'll see that interchangeably throughout the presentation. Accommodations at an interview. So if you need to disclose before the interview, please feel to do so. If you need access to certain supports within an environment, physical environment, that's important to disclose that. Confirm with the employer that there will not be any issues is very important as well. It does not have to be a big deal at all, but just communication is a key. An example is confirming that the interview location is wheelchair accessible. That's a great example of something with a visual disability versus a hidden disability. Also, for our hidden disabilities, if for some reason you have anxiety in the morning when you're preparing for your day and you can't start the interview before like 10 a.m., making sure that that's clear when you're signing up for a schedule. Accommodations at work. Here is a lovely list for you before the interview versus at the interview. Consider the interviewer can be shocked, making sure that some people are not aware of some of the disabilities that people face. And then also it's important that you as the applicant confronts the most important and you're comfortable with that as well. Acknowledgement rather than disclosure. Acknowledge that there's something different rather than disclose. Be simple, straightforward statement. Interviewer does not need to have medical history, so you don't need to bring that in with you. Emphasize that you can do the essential feature of the job. Also, keep everything positive. Positive attitude equals a positive outcome. Problem solve, not problem creator. Making sure that they're aware that this isn't a problem and you're just trying to solve it before and you're not trying to create a problem. And also be okay with a letter of reference. All right, accommodations at work that are hidden. Negotiate versus on the job. Negotiating is important before you accept the job. So before you accept, make sure you're able to negotiate for certain accommodations versus when you're on the job and you're trying to negotiate after the contract was signed. Only ask for accommodations upon the offer, so negotiation process. When does the employer need to know? That depends on you. Disclosure to the fewest number of people necessary to get what you need. I think that's the most helpful. I personally have a disability and I think it's helpful to only disclose to people that you trust too, because sometimes individuals have a negative stigma with people that have disabilities. There is nothing wrong with you. You may just have to do things a little bit differently in your daily process. So just remembering that, and you're your own advocate and you can do it. And just make sure that you can trust some of the people that you're sharing that with if you decide to disclose. No accommodations needed. So something to also think about. Unless it is visible, is there a need to disclose or is there no need to disclose? These are questions you need to think about. Benefits from disclosing. Hidden disability, really hidden. Something to think about. If a hidden disability becomes obvious after a short period of time, an example is having autism spectrum disorders, you may need to know and be prepared to have that conversation with your employer and coworkers. Like I mentioned earlier, stigmas or biases. Inclusive environments are not always like BGSU, so go Falcons. This is a safe place for you to learn and develop and grow, and unfortunately some work environments might not be as inclusive. So it's important to kind of know those stigmas and biases, and if I could interact with you all, I'd ask you to kind of share some of the stigmas that you may have encountered, but stigma is a very real problem that affects people with both visible and hidden disabilities. I want you to be prepared and have thick skin where you might have the opportunity to educate people on disabilities. And be extremely careful on disclosing if there is no benefit. I want you all to know that having a disability, hidden or visible, does not set you apart in a negative light. You should think of it as a gift because you just have to learn a little bit differently, and it's an opportunity for you to educate others and create an inclusive environment. So this is a great place to practice at BGSU, and roll along, Falcons. So we're going to roll along to the next slide. Address in the cover letter. Never address a disability in your resume. It implies that it's an important aspect of your job search. Only address in a cover letter if having a disability gives you an advantage over other applicants. Resume before cover letter. So something to kind of think about. These quotes are from individuals in the profession of how they would address for certain jobs. It always depends on the job. If it's relevant to the job, maybe if you're going to be a special education teacher and you want to relate to your students, maybe sharing that. But also, I would really focus more on addressing it in an interview. And if you have experience related to disabilities, you can showcase that in your resume before your cover letter. Practice, practice, practice. If the student or you plan on disclosing, you need to be prepared with a short statement and practice it on how you want to go about that with the employer. Prepare examples that highlight your abilities, not your disabilities. Remember, you are an able person and you can do this. Also, consider illegal questions that they may be asked and help you prepare those answers. So practicing that. So, for example, if you're wheelchair bound, if someone asks you an inappropriate question, be encouraged to be like, well, I'm not really sure you know that. You're not supposed to ask me that. You could play it off, or you could address it. Well, actually, I don't feel comfortable addressing that question. Encourage the student or you to come in for a mock interview. That's very important. And also, you need to know your rights under the ADA. So this is a helpful link for you to kind of be familiar with the ADA Act. So life examples. Some life examples is having a learned reading disability. And sometimes it's stigmatized. And I put a question mark because it depends on the people that you might be working with. Accommodations that you may have received if you have a reading disabilities at a school is material that is in altered format, additional time on tests, permission to tape record lectures, or extension on short-term assignments. So these are some things that you might be receiving now as a BGSU student if you have a reading disability. But possible work accommodations that might help you be more successful is technology that may make your work easier. Additional times in the morning if you have migraines. Or additional time to do written tasks. It's okay to ask for accommodations. Remember, they're trying to level the playing field. Another great resource for you all to be aware of is contacting the BGSU Career Center. Hire.bgsu.edu, also on Facebook, and at Twitter. You can tweet what you learned today. BGSU Career Network on LinkedIn as well is a very helpful resource. Additional supports on campus. I think it's so important to know what services you have. So the disability services, it's moved this past year in 2013. It's at the College Park office currently. You can reach them at their voice or fax or phone number. Also, the Counseling Center, if you need to talk about some of these challenging situations with adjusting to college, feel free to contact them. But also, the Office of Equity and Diversity. They're here to support you. So if you're having a challenging situation, make an appointment with them and talk about it, because these are supports for you on campus. So you're more successful on campus. And also when you become an alum, making sure that when you're doing your job search, that the accommodations are there for you and they can speak to the legal matters. So if you have additional questions, feel free to contact the Career Center at 419-372-2356. What went well? Tell us what we can do, because there are so many disabilities that we want to be able to help and support you. And if you have suggestions, we'd love to hear them. I hope you have a great day, and please use the National Center for Learning Disabilities or Disabilities. Be aware of the acts that support you as an individual. I hope you had a wonderful day, and remember, we're here as a resource for you to be more successful, and you can do it. We believe in you. Have a great day.